How can your business grow without finding and hiring the right people? The short answer is it can't. That is why today I've got a special guest with me today, and we're going to dig into how to hire better people faster. Hi, I am Tim Fitzpatrick with Rialto Marketing. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am super excited to have with me today Ryan Englin from Core Matters. Ryan, thanks so much for joining me and taking the time.
Oh, thanks for having me, Tim.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a pleasure. I was fortunate enough to be on your podcast, Blue Collar Culture, a little while back, and I appreciate you popping on and sharing your wisdom with our audience today.
Absolutely.
And happy Friday the 13th, by the way. If you're watching this live or listening live, it is Friday the 13th in 2020, which has been a crazy year, obviously. So are you superstitious?
I'm not.
Okay, me neither. So we're just going to run with it.
Doesn't mean I couldn't figure out something bad that would happen today and blame it on the day. So
yeah. There's always something you can blame it on, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So before we dig into it, just tell us a little bit more about you personally and what you're doing at Core Matters.
Absolutely. So let me go back just real quick to the beginning. So I grew up in a family that my dad was in manufacturing. So he was a blue collar guy through and through. And I remember being a kid and him working all the time. I mean, the machines would go down. No one else could fix them. He'd have an employee quit and he wouldn't know what to do. And I mean, here we are, and he's well past retirement age and he's still working. He's still the only guy that can work on those machines. And so when I started my marketing company about a decade ago, I was just drawn to the blue collar industry, the trades, the home services, everything else. And after a while, I realized that the reason these companies weren't growing wasn't because of a lack of leads or because of a lack of new customers. It was because they couldn't find the right people to service these customers.
Yeah.
And so in 2015, I started working with one client. I said, hey, let's see if we can fix the recruiting issue. Forget the lead stuff. And it just clicked. And so for the last 5 years, that's what I've been doing, is working with blue collar companies to hire frontline talent. Because there's not a lot of people out there supporting that, because it's those frontline people, whether you want to believe it or not, they're the people on which your company is built.
Absolutely.
And so if you don't have good service techs, if you don't have good laborers, if you don't have people that can just show up and actually, what I like to say, give a damn, then you're not gonna be able to grow the company the way you want to. The owner will always be involved. They're always going to get pulled into the fire, and ultimately they're just not going to achieve what they want. And I know a lot of these companies are started because these business owners want something more for their family. They want something more for their life.
Yeah.
My dad worked so hard, not because he just wanted to work. It's because he wanted to provide for his family.
Yeah.
But he missed out on a lot of things with his family because he was working so hard. And I want to help businesses break that cycle.
Yeah.
And be able to focus on the things that are really important to them and the reasons that they started their business. Because most people didn't say, I want to start a business because I want to make less money and work twice as many hours as
right.
But that's what happens all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. If you can't find the right people to help you scale and help, honestly, I mean, a lot of us as business owners struggle with pulling ourselves out of the business. The business is too owner dependent.
Yeah.
And we can't get out of that cycle if we can't find the right people.
Absolutely. And that's why I like working with small business owners and entrepreneurs, because, just a couple of little changes, a couple little tweaks, hiring a couple of the right people can really just change their business.
Yeah. Well, and having a system in place so that when you need to hire, you're not sitting there stuck. You can just get rolling, put that thing in place, and that it works. I can imagine how life-changing that is for them. So I'm excited to dig into this because I think it is a really good topic, and I think that is something that's going to help a lot of people.
Yeah.
And obviously, one of the biggest problems that businesses have is just finding good people. They hire somebody thinking it's going to be great, and it's 3 weeks in, they're like, oh my God, this is not what I thought it was. This is awful. So why is it so hard to find good employees?
Well, there's a couple of reasons, and pandemic aside, because the pandemic's really changed a lot of things. But overall, I think when you're a small business, one of the biggest challenges you have is you have to understand that when you're competing for employees, it's not the same as competing for customers. So if you are an HVAC technician, you're competing with other HVAC companies for customers. But if you are an employer, you're competing against the Amazons and the Microsofts and the Googles and the Facebooks and all these cool jobs that everybody wants. Those are your competition when it comes to finding and attracting good talent. And so if you're paying $12, $15 an hour for a frontline worker, so is Amazon.
Right.
The difference is Amazon's putting them in their living room, letting them sit on the computer all day. It's just more of a fun job. So one of the biggest challenges that the small businesses have is that they haven't understood that that's their competition when it comes to finding employees. And if that's their competition, now you have to be found as easily as those guys are. You have to have a system that's built and a process for applying that's as easy as theirs are. And so I think one of the biggest challenges we have as small businesses is we can't be found. We're not standing out in that crowded marketplace. And then the other thing is if they do find us, they don't know how to apply. They don't know how to connect with us. They don't know what jobs are open because there's no system that's been built around that.
Got it. So we have to look at what some of these larger companies are doing and make sure that we're competitive with what they're doing.
Absolutely. I mean, I know for a fact that Amazon spends tens of millions of dollars a year on advertising their open jobs.
Yeah.
I don't know any small business owners that are able to do that.
No.
But we're competing against that.
Yeah.
And if we recognize that we're competing against that, what are the couple of things we can do as small business owners to really stand out and attract the good people?
Yeah. So it's because of the lack of system or process that is making it hard to find good people, because the good people go into that process and they're like, oh my God, if this is what it's like to work here, I don't want to be here.
Yeah. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that we could dig into, but I think one of the biggest things that I run into is you have to think about an applicant just like you would think about a customer lead. So if a customer called you and said, hey, I'm interested in you coming out to my house or coming out to my business, would you let that sit 4, 5, 6 days before you get back to them? But when we're recruiting, we do it all the time.
Yeah.
An applicant comes in, you're in the middle of fires, you're in the middle of dealing with your business, serving your customers. You're like, I'll get back to that applicant.
Yeah.
Well, that applicant needs a job.
Yes.
And they're going to keep looking just like a customer would keep calling if they never heard back.
Yeah.
And the thing about good people, and that's the thing I always hear, people can find people. It's the good people that they really want to find.
That's right.
Good people is they're going to get snatched up.
Yes.
It's just like a customer that can pay, like those ideal customers, somebody's going to service them. It might as well be you. Same thing happens with applicants. Somebody is going to offer them a job. And if it's not you, then you're really going to struggle to find good people.
Yeah. I've always thought that it seems like a lot of business owners fall into that trap where it's like, hey, I'm the one that's offering the job, right? They feel like they're in this position of power in some way, shape, or form. And it's really not that way. I mean, and people that are looking for jobs have choices, they don't want to work just anywhere. And so if you're going to start this relationship off on the right foot, it needs to be more simpatico here. It's like the employee or the applicant really should be interviewing the company just as much as the company's interviewing the applicant.
Yeah. And when we talk about interviewing, which I think we're going to get to in a little bit, but just a little bit of foreshadowing here.
Yes.
Interviewing, the thing that I see about employers is they're desperate. They've got someone on the other side of the table. They can fog a mirror. They showed up like, I'm going to hire them. And then as you said in the opening, 3 weeks go by and they're like, what the heck? Who is this? This isn't the person that I interviewed. And it's like, well, did you really spend time interviewing them? Did you really spend time getting to know them?
Yeah.
And so I think that's a big challenge too, is remembering that as an employer, yes, you're in the decision seat and you have the power, but so are they, because they have options. And as we go online and as the world becomes work from home and remote and everything else, those options expand a lot.
Yeah. So, let me ask you another follow-up question here, because I've heard a lot of people say this, hire slow, fire fast, right? And, hire slow meaning take your time to do what you need to do to properly qualify the applicant. Do you agree with that, or what are your thoughts on that?
So there are some states in this country where it is faster and easier to get a divorce from your spouse than it is to fire an employee. Okay. It's insane. It's insane. Yeah. And I ask people all the time, like, how long did you date your spouse? Nobody says, 12 minutes. Like they showed up.
Right. Yeah.
I proposed and I got married. Nobody says that.
Yeah.
And so I absolutely subscribe to that. And hire slow does not mean time, like calendar time. It doesn't mean take 45 days to hire someone.
Right.
Hire slow means get a chance to really know them, get a chance to understand who it is that you're talking to. One of the things about the modern workforce, and millennials get a bad rap all the time. And I think it's just because they're easy to pick on, but millennials are some of the hardest workers out there because millennials struggle to unplug. So you can get somebody working 15 hours a day, but they're going to do it on their terms.
Yeah.
And what they've done is they've created what I call the modern workforce. And the modern workforce isn't concerned about a pension and great benefits and long-term employment. Modern workforce is more aligned to a purpose. They want to know that they're making a difference when they get out of bed in the morning.
Yeah.
And I think that as employers recognize that and make that shift and say, you know what, maybe it's not that I'm paying above market wages, or that I have this amazing benefit package, or I've got this 401k match that's unheard of in my industry. The modern workforce doesn't care anymore, because the truth is that employee is going to be with you about 3.1 years. That's it.
Okay.
Average person switches jobs every 3 years. So if that's the case, the long-term benefit stuff that we're used to attracting employees with, and it's gone.
Yeah.
So if you want to find good people, focus on purpose, focus on values. And that's one of the things that I think happens, is that we've forgotten that this is it's a relationship.
Yes.
It's like getting married. It's a relationship.
Yes,
It's going to be give and take on both sides.
Yeah. So one of the things it seems like, so you just said, in order to attract good people, it's not what it used to be. There are a lot of people that are looking for making a difference, having a purpose in what they do. Do you think part of being able to attract good people then is that company having their story down, their messaging down? I mean, it's like, why the hell would I want to work for you?
Yeah.
Do they need to have that down?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
If you want to attract good people, you have to be attractive to good people.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the honest truth.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never used one of these dating apps, but I know that there's like the swipes and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, if your profile picture doesn't look good, like first impressions, that's it. They don't care that you've got degrees. They don't care that you've got lots of money in the bank. If they don't like looking at you on that app, they swipe, Yeah. It's the same thing here. If someone goes online and Googles you, which by the way, about 90% of job seekers look for jobs online first.
Yeah.
And when they find your job, about 70% of those are actually going to Google you before they apply. And if you've got horrible Yelp reviews, if you've got Better Business reviews that say you're not good or you don't have a good rating with them, if you've got bad Google reviews, or even worse, if they can't find anything about you.
Yes.
That's almost worse nowadays than having bad reviews, because now is this a legitimate business?
Yeah.
Yeah. If they Google you and it's not attractive, they're going to move on.
That's such an interesting point, because as a marketer, we talk about your online presence all the time, and how that really sets the stage for people that are checking out your business. Most people never think about the fact that it's not just your online presence isn't just about attracting new clients. It's about attracting new employees as well.
Yeah.
That's a really point.
One of the things that's cool about the work we do, because it's all driven by marketing. I mean, it's all about messaging. It's all about the right people, the right message in front of the right people. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. So
yes.
when it comes to recruiting, what we've found is that if we create campaigns, marketing message, advertisements, if we think about our brand from a recruiting perspective, it's really easy to attract great customers as well. But the inverse doesn't hold true. Yeah. So our focus is very much think about your website, think about your online presence, think about when a prospective employee were to find that, what would they think?
Yeah.
Because if you've got bad reviews, because maybe, and for a lot of small businesses, this is the truth. They have bad reviews because they don't have enough good people. Maybe they've got a couple of bad employees, or they're shorthanded, and so they're not getting projects done on time. And that's what creates those bad reviews. A good employee sees that and says, wait a minute, if they're not taking care of the customers, which for most business owners is person number one.
Yep.
How are they going to take care of their employees?
Absolutely.
And so we really need to get clear on that and making sure that our reputation is in alignment with the kind of people we want to attract.
I love that. So what else can we do to attract good people?
So when someone tells me they can't find good people, what I hear and what I found that they really mean is they can't find people that care like I care, and they can't find people that value what I value. Now, they won't use those words.
Yeah.
Because they're not that clear on it, but that's what they're really saying. Every business owner I talk to says, I wish I could find people that just cared about my business like I do. And the truth is, there are people out there that will care more about the business than you will. The truth is that there are people out there that can do that. But the problem is, we don't understand as business owners who those people are, where they spend their time, how we message them, how we can find them. I mean, in marketing, the right message is great, but if you're putting it in front of the wrong people,
it's not going to work.
Worthless.
Yes.
And so if you're the business owner that has continued to get what I call bottom feeders, stop fishing out of the cesspools.
Yeah.
Stop going to the sewage plant and grabbing whatever is eating, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And I use a lot of fishing analogies because recruiting is fishing.
Yeah.
It really is. It's casting a bait out there and saying, let's see what we catch today. And in fishing, the first decision you have to make, let me ask you this. What's the first decision you have to make? If you want to go fishing, what's the first thing that you need to decide?
Where I'm going to go.
It's actually not.
No?
Because what dictates where you're going to go? What kind of fish you want to catch?
Okay. Yeah, there you go. All right.
So if you're not clear on the fish you want to catch, you can't make any other decisions.
Yeah. Okay.
If I go down to the county pond down here and I hang out at the park, but I really want to catch salmon, there's not going to be.
It's not going to work.
It's not going to work. And I'm going to be disappointed time and time again. I'm like, there's got to be salmon in here. And it's the same thing. Like, there's got to be good people on Indeed. There's got to be good people on Craigslist. I'm just going to keep focusing on those job boards.
Yeah.
And until you're really clear on who it is that you want on your team, values alignment, how they're going to show up, what kind of behaviors, what's important to them, a lot of things that we need to think about. Until you've figured that out, I tell people all the time, don't bother spending money on ads.
Right.
You're going to be fishing in the wrong places.
So you're really helping people. This is so funny how much similarity there is between marketing and recruiting. You've got to get those fundamentals down of, where are your target employees? What are you going to say to them? And what's your plan going to be to then attract those people? So we've talked a little bit about, obviously you're a coacher, and putting out a good online presence is a great way to attract the right people. What kind of things do you recommend people do in their job ads to attract the right people? We've talked about, values, right? Do you recommend that people, should they put out their values in their job postings? What does that look like?
They absolutely should. So when we teach, and we write a lot of job ads, but we also teach how to write job ads. When we write job ads, we actually do not teach what I call the 3 R's. We don't teach that because everybody knows the 3 R's. What are the requirements for doing the job? What are your responsibilities? And how are we going to reward you? Like, we don't teach, everybody knows how to do those. What we teach is, how do you write an ad that's attractive? Think about a job ad like a TV commercial. Okay.
Yeah.
A television commercial for a new car never says, by the way, at 500 miles after the break-in, you're going to be bringing it in to get the oil change and get it inspected. And if there's any warranty issues, we'll cover it. A television commercial for a new car is never going to say, every 3,000 or 5,000 miles, you got to change the oil and you got to do this. There's all this maintenance. They don't talk about that stuff. What they do is they promote what people want, which is that new car experience. If you remember one thing, it's that people don't leave jobs. People leave managers.
Yes.
They leave bosses.
Yeah.
So an electrician isn't going to go apply for other electrician jobs because he doesn't like being an electrician. That just doesn't make any sense.
Right.
He's going to apply for other electrician jobs because he doesn't like the guy he's working for.
Yeah.
The gal he's working for. And so if you remember that the number one reason people leave their current employer is the employer, your job ad should really focus on the employer, not the work. An electrician knows how to be an electrician. Sure, you might hold them accountable differently. You might have different metrics. You might have different rules. But what's really different about you from their current employer is your company culture and your leadership team. So if you remember that people don't leave jobs, they leave bosses. One of the best things you can do in your job ad is talk about their boss at the new place. Help them understand that, yes, the grass really is greener over here. Yeah. We really do care about our people. And it can't just be lip service. Just like in marketing, you can't promise something that you can't commit to.
Right.
Because you will end up with horrible reviews and upset customers if expectations aren't met.
Yeah.
But if you really do value your people and you really do invest in them and you train them and you coach them and you want personal growth for them, talk about that in your job ad, because that's what people are looking for. They're not looking for another place to go clock a 9 to 5 and turn a wrench, because they're already doing that.
Yeah. Do you, I've had a lot of people say that in job ads, you should, you know, at the very bottom, you know, you put some type of qualifier in there, right? Like, don't submit your resume if you're interested, please do X, you know, or something like that to weed people out that are just freaking applying to anything and everything.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree with that. So the job boards, if you remember, the job boards were created to provide a quantity of applications to employers, not necessarily a quality.
Yes.
And so their focus is on quantity. Well, the only way you can really get quantity is by making it easy on the job seeker. So there are job boards out there where a job seeker can say, hey, there's 25 jobs that look good, check them all and say apply.
Yes.
And I've seen it so many times where the employer will call the job seeker and the job seeker's like, who are you again? I don't remember.
Yeah.
So those Easter eggs, that's what I call them. Those are Easter eggs. I love Easter eggs, especially if you don't have a system, a software platform to help you manage your recruiting, which I do recommend everybody gets. But if you don't have one, Easter eggs are great. And sometimes I'll see people say things like, when you email us, put this in the subject line. And I actually don't recommend you do it at the bottom. I recommend you do it just in the middle of a paragraph somewhere in
so you're really burying it.
Yeah, bury it. You want to make sure people read it.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite ones to do, because this is just, especially in the trades, this is just so out of left field. But somewhere in the middle of the job ad, we'll say, by the way, when you send us this, put the name of your favorite Disney princess in the subject line. It's just so out of left field. Like, if someone actually does it, you know they read the job ad.
Yes. So I love it.
So that is one way. If you use the software that I recommend, which is an applicant tracking system, it's very similar to a CRM.
Okay.
What those systems allow you to do is create what I call knockout questions. And so these are questions that the job seeker is required to answer. And then the system will actually decide automatically whether or not you should see that resume.
Got it.
So one of the most recent clients we worked with, they require their techs to crawl through crawl spaces. So they're back east, a lot of crawl spaces in the homes. Well, there's a claustrophobia thing. There's fears around that. There's all sorts of things. So they actually ask the question, are you okay crawling through crawl spaces the majority of the day? And if people say no, the system can automatically reject that applicant. So as a small business owner, you don't have to deal with that.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the other challenges is they come in on Monday morning and they got 100 new applications and they're like, oh, maybe there's someone good in here. But
right.
I don't know when I'm going to find the time to go through them all.
So you really want your process or your system needs to have some way of filtering all the applicants so that what you're really spending time on are the highest quality applicants.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's where those Easter eggs come in.
Yes.
So if you don't have the software, the Easter eggs will help you filter, because you can even set up rules in Outlook or Gmail that say, when this subject line comes in here, just move it.
Yeah.
And so, and people get creative with that stuff. Like, don't overthink it too much. The one thing that I tell people, especially when they're looking for frontline employees, is remember that these people aren't creative writers. You know, they're not used to following really detailed instructions and working well on a computer. That's not what they do for a living.
Yeah.
You know, if you're looking for a copywriter, yeah, you can like, hey, you're going to be writing. I want to see some cool stories.
Yeah.
But if you're looking for a craft worker or a welder or something like that, you can't set the expectation in such that you're setting them up to fail.
Yeah.
So you've got to make it simple for them. I've seen some crazy ones that are like, your first paragraph needs to have 3 sentences. Your second paragraph has 7 sentences. And it's like, oh, I wouldn't even want to filter that.
Yeah.
So just easy one-liners will help a lot with filtering.
Okay. I love it. So we talked about why it's so hard to find good employees. We've talked about how to attract some of the right employees. How do we find the right person, you know, and make sure that the person we're interviewing is going to work out?
Sure. So if you think about customers, I'll just start with a customer example. We've all had a customer that we're like, oh my gosh, why did I take them on as a customer? You know? And a lot of times, if you really diagnose the issue, especially if you're starting to see a pattern of taking on a lot of customers, what we find is that the problem isn't the customer, the problem isn't the employer, the problem is unmet expectations. Either their expectations were set by a previous relationship or something, or you're saying something in your marketing and your sales process that's setting expectations that you can't live up to. And so what we found is about 9 times out of 10, when we're banging our forehead 3 weeks after the person started and going, what the heck happened?
Yeah.
It's because expectations weren't met. Now, if it happens within the first 90 days, I always point back to it's a hiring issue. We made a bad hiring decision. If we're finding that we have low quality employees after they've been with us for 90 days, it's a culture or leadership issue. So 2 different problems. I'm going to focus on the easier one to solve, which is the 90-day issue.
Yeah.
We're making a bad hiring decision. And if expectations aren't being met, we need to be really clear on what expectations we have going in and what expectations they have going in. And you can't find that out in a 15-minute interview.
Right.
You can't spend time with someone and say, hey, you showed up on time. You've got a ride to work. It looks like you have the skills. You're hired. You can't set proper expectations there. And so in our book Unmasked, which I want to share a free download with everybody at the end.
Cool.
We talk about how do you get into the behavior of a person and how do you make sure that those behaviors align with the behaviors you're looking for. So I personally, as a small business owner, would take an employee that doesn't have the skill set, but has the right behaviors any day. And that's one of the things we teach. You can teach someone to weld. You can teach someone to work safely. You can teach someone how to lift or how to use tools. What you can't teach them to do is how to get to work on time.
Right.
What you can't teach them to do is how to actually care about not wasting supplies. You can't teach those things. Like that stuff is so much harder to teach. So what we want to do in the interview process is focus on the things we can't teach. Too many interviews these days are focused on, can you do the job? And what we need to do is shift the way we think about interviews, focus more on behaviors, and not say, can they do the job? Is, do they want to do the job?
Got it.
It's just a different approach to interviewing.
So you're hiring for fit, not for the skills. per se.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's some debate on whether or not you should be doing that and how far you take it. If I'm looking for someone that needs to have 3 to 5 years of experience and the skills to do the job, I can't ignore that.
Yeah.
So it's not like an either or. You do have to make sure you balance it out. But I tell people all the time, hire for cultural fit first and then figure out where to plug them in later. So we've actually had clients that were looking for, say, a craft worker, someone that had the skills, they were skilled labor, maybe they'd gotten some certifications, and they brought them in and they're like, oh my gosh, you were such an amazing fit, but you don't quite have enough experience for us. So we're actually going to put you in this different role because we don't want to lose you. We want you on our team. We just don't want you in that position today.
Yeah.
And so we see that happen a lot. If you focus on that culture fit first, you can find the people that you're willing to invest in because they're willing to invest in you.
So do they need to focus more on, if you're trying to hire for fit, are you asking more like hypothetical questions? Like how would you handle this specific situation to try and dig into where their values are and just their behavior? How do you do that?
Yeah. So we're going to focus more on behavioral and process-based questions.
Okay.
And some of these processes, we may not even ask a question. We may just plant a seed and see how they respond. So for example, one of my clients actually believes that 10 minutes early is on time and on time is late. And so for him, we actually beat that up in the job ad a lot. We actually make sure we mention that multiple times in the job ad, that 10 minutes is early, on time is late. And then when we book the appointment, hey, the interview's at 9 o'clock. Our expectation is that they're there early.
Yes. Okay.
So that we know that they're going to align to our value system or the owner's value system. And the people that show up at 9 o'clock, right on time, we start to question, are they the right people for us?
Yeah.
And we'll know, did they read the job ad? I just talked to a business owner the other day, and for him, he was telling me, he gets phone calls in the morning. The shift starts at 7, gets a phone call at 6:55. My car won't start. I'm not going to make it today. It's like, what do you mean your car won't start? Well, my car broke down last night. Why didn't you call me last night?
Yeah.
So this is the stuff that we have to focus on when we're interviewing people. We have to make sure that we're addressing these issues because these aren't the issues to solve in the first 3 weeks on the job.
Yeah. Yeah.
So so we do process-based interviewing and we do behavioral question-based interviewing. So for some of the behavioral questions, we'll want to know, how do you handle leadership? How do you deal with someone disagreeing with you? How do you deal with conflict on the job site? What if you see someone doing something they're not supposed to be doing? What are you going to do? And we address those questions. Another real simple tool out there that I'll share, because everybody gets excited about this, is an integrity test. So there are assessments you can give people. They are online. They take about 7 to 10 minutes for the applicant to take. And it will tell you with a 94% accuracy, their likelihood to lie, to steal, to cause workplace violence, or do drugs or alcohol on the job. And these integrity assessments can really be a game changer for the quality of people. Because what you'll find is a lot of job seekers will just be like, I'm not taking that.
Right.
Because I know I'm not going to pass. And then you'll find some take it that you thought were great because they could talk the talk and walk the walk, but they think it's okay to go drink on the job.
Yeah.
They're using heavy equipment, So
with interviewing, more behavioral and process-based questions, it also sounds like you like, depending on the business, some type of test or multiple tests to help them evaluate that candidate outside of just the interview process.
Yeah, pre-hire assessments are something that you typically only see in large organizations because for a lot of them, you have to have someone with the training and the education to be able to interpret the information.
Gotcha.
Well, because there's been such a push to online applications, there are a lot of assessment companies that have come out for small business owners. And so you can send an assessment to someone as part of the interview process. And what you'll find is probably less than 50% of the people will actually take the assessment, So that just scrubs another 50% of the job seekers out that you had to look at.
Yes.
And the ones that take it, they'll actually tell you, this is an A quality, this is a B quality, this is a C quality. And then so you can further filter and say, hey, I'm just going to focus my time on the people that passed and are the A quality applicants.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them out there to help with that.
Do you like any or recommend any of the personality assessments that are out there, DISC or Enneagram or anything like that? Do you use those when you work with clients?
Do. So we use one called ProScan.
ProScan.
And it's not something that you can just go get on your own. You have to go through someone who's certified.
Okay.
So I went through the certification to understand how to use ProScan. A lot of those assessments are all built on the same foundation around human personality. And so if you have one in your organization that you like, keep using it, but learn how to use it beyond the hiring decision.
Yes.
So what I recommend we do with our ProScan assessments, so we use them in figuring out who the right person is. Remember the whole example of phishing?
Right.
We actually do what we call a job scan. And most of these assessment platforms have something similar where we get with leaders and say, how do you want them to behave and think? And then it comes back and it says, here's the personality profile for this position. And so we're able to use that there. And then what we do is, as you get to your top 3, let's say you're having a tough time making a decision, you can run the assessments at that point. And then that can help you figure out, is this the right person for the position I'm looking for? But beyond that, where I think most people fail to get the most value out of it is now that you have this behavioral assessment, this personality assessment, using it as part of the team building function, which is a whole nother show we could do.
Yes, we absolutely could.
But I just want to put that out there. If you're going to use personality assessments as part of your hiring process, don't let it stop there. Make sure you get the ultimate value out of them and teaching people how to better communicate, build a team, build trust. Because there are a lot of things you can do there. Because the truth is, if you have a great system for hiring people, but you're losing them because you don't have a system for retaining them, you don't really fix the problem.
Yeah.
So
got it.
Unfortunately, you have to think about it both. But what we found is that if you have a really solid system for hiring and you're hiring around culture fit, you'll fix about 60% of your retention issues.
Love it. Ryan, you've shared some serious value here. So I appreciate it. I've picked up a bunch of stuff. So thank you. And I know our audience will pick that up as well. Where can people learn more about you? Because obviously if they need to hire people, better people, faster, I know you know what you're doing, and I know you can help them.
So I'm a marketing guy, so I'm an easy guy to find.
Yeah.
But, the company website is thecorematters.com. You see it there on the screen right now. So it's thecorematters.com. And what I'd love to do is invite anybody to go to that website. And the book I had mentioned, Unmasked, is about how to hire the people that you won't want to fire. It's all about the behavioral interview process. You can actually purchase it on Amazon, or I've got it free download in exchange for an email address on my website. So piece of cake, easy to get. You'll get the download. And because I know that I work with crazy busy business owners, it's only like 60 pages. So it's a lot of information packed into a small book, but I wanted to make sure that it was something that you would want to read and actually get through. So
cool. Well, take advantage of that, please. It'll indoctrinate you into what Ryan does and how he can help. And please reach out to him, because this is my second or third conversation with Ryan, and I know he knows what he's talking about. So thank you for taking the time. Thank you for being here. Everybody else, just like to say thank you for tuning in. Again, I am Tim Fitzpatrick with Rialto Marketing. If you want to gain clarity on where to focus your marketing efforts right now, hop on over to our website, rialtomarketing.com. That's RIALTO marketing.com. Just click on the Get a Free Consult button. Guarantee you will get a ton of value from that call and walk away knowing what next steps you need to take. Remember, marketing shouldn't be difficult. All you need is the right plan. Till next time, take care.